Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Mirror of Music. My name is Dannii Cohen. This week's guest is Shona Lindsay.
Shona Lindsay is one of West End's longest-running Christines. She made her acting debut aged 11 in Annie, starred in many TV series, and then in 1990 became the youngest West End actress in history to play Christine Daaé. On the show, Shona talks about her time on the show, working with Hal Prince and her many phantoms, including Peter Karrie, Ethan Freeman and Mike Sterling. Thanks to her long-running time on Phantom, Shona appeared in many legendary West End and touring productions of Aspects of Love, Jekyll and Hyde, Grease, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, Dirty Dancing and much more.
I hope you will enjoy the show.
Hi.
Hey. Would you like to start?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Oh, now hang on. Just as we're about to do it, my dog has started to squeak.
Oh,
I'm here as well, but she'll be quiet.
how adorable.
Right, hopefully. Okay, I think we're good. We're good. Let's go for it, Dannii.
What are you up to right now?
So over the past few years, I've kind of diversified a little bit away from musical theatre. I haven't been doing as many shows. I've still been doing my concert work and recording quite a lot of sessions for film scores, but I've gone into presenting. So over the last, I'd say about 10 years, probably 90% of my work has been presenting and 10% has been singing. Lots of different things, really kind of diverse, lots of shopping telly, that's been my mainstay, but also live events and hosting and educational videos and that kind of thing, which I've absolutely loved. And it came to me through my concert work that I realized that I think when I was younger and when I first started in my career, I needed the wig, I needed the costume to feel secure. But as I got older, I realized I didn't mind being myself in front of an audience. And that's when the concert work started to come to fruition, because then you walked on stage in your pretty dress and you sang and you spoke to people. And then it just sort of took it one step further. Love interviewing, much like you're doing, understanding a little bit more about the background of people. So yeah, but really strangely, just in the last couple of months, I've started thinking, I think I might think about doing a musical. So I'm considering starting to audition again in the new year. So, I don't know, we'll watch this space.
What sort of roles would you like to do in the future?
Of the things that are already out there, I would love to play Norma Desmond in Sunset
Yes.
Boulevard. Those kind of grittier roles. Obviously, earlier in my career, it was very much the ingenue. But yeah, it would be nice to do something a little gritty.
You began your career at a very early age.
Yeah.
How did you fall in love with theatre and music?
Well, my mum was a singer. My mum was a dance band singer in the late 50s, early 60s. So, in the old way that we would see in the movies and people go and dance on a Friday night, at the Palais, my mum was that singer in the front of the band.
Fabulous.
I know, incredible.
Yes.
There was always loads of music at home. So I would be singing along with her. And she was in an amateur dramatics company. And I did a couple of little shows for them. But it was really due to a neighbour hearing me sing, just singing in the garage, singing echoey walls, that kind of thing. And he was very much into musical theatre. And he went to find my parents when he heard that they were looking for new girls for Annie in the West End, and said, we really think your little girl should go up for it. And after much sort of tantrums, stamping of feet and crying and I want to go, that they said, okay, let's do it. And that was it. I got the part. I got Annie in the West End, and And as soon as I stepped on stage, I just knew it's what I wanted to do.
You then went on to act in series and TV shows. What was it like to be sort of a celebrity at such a young age?
I don't think I ever thought about it like that. I never really thought in terms of being well known. I never wanted to be famous. I always wanted to be someone that people knew that if they hired Shona Lindsay, the goods would be turned in. I would be there on time, and I would always be reliable and give 110%, if you can give 110%, but you know what I mean, to every single project. But I was never bothered about being recognized, which is one of the reasons why I've not really ever wanted to get involved in any of these television shows, you know, the talent shows, because that's not what it's about for me. It's about the process of becoming a character and being a team player. I think musicals and plays and television, it's all about every tiny cog is so important. It doesn't matter if you've got 900 lines or 9 lines, everyone's just as important. So for me, it was always about the process, not about fame and fortune.
In 1990, you were cast as Christine Daaé in The Phantom of the Opera. What was this time like for you?
Amazing. Absolutely incredible. I mean, it all kind of came out of, prior to that, I'd been cast in the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber at the Prince Edward for Sir Andrew. He wasn't then. He was just Andrew Lloyd Webber then. And it was just coming to the end of his marriage with Sarah Brightman. And the whole premise of the concert was Sarah was fronting it, and then there were 5 boys and 5 girls, and we would step forward and sing duets with Sarah. And it was during that I think the cogs started to turn, and they thought, actually, this young girl here could potentially be a Christine. And so I was brought in to work with Hal Prince. And it was quite a long process. It wasn't a standard audition process. It was a little bit like those television shows where they nurtured and they trained you, but it was behind the scenes. It wasn't in front of a camera crew. So it was a process of many months where I was coached and nurtured, and in order to be ready to do the role. So it was really exciting, and it kind of took over my life. But when it came to opening night, it didn't have that kind of terrifying nerves, because it had been such a long process instead of just a 4-week rehearsal period. I was so ready to go. It was ridiculous. I was like, let me get out there.
Do you have any memories of phantoms you've worked with?
Any memories of?
Phantoms you've worked with?
Oh yeah, all of them. Good and bad. Yeah, I mean, I have a friend for life is one of my phantoms. Actually, my second time when I went back in 97, Glyn Kerslake is one of my dearest friends, and his wife and his children as well. And actually, we all live quite locally to each other now. We're none of us in London anymore. And he has become one of my dearest friends. And John Barrowman he wasn't Phantom, but he was Raoul in my first incarnation, and we're still very much really good pals, although most of it's on email and social media now. I don't get to see him that often. But yeah, I have memories of absolutely every single one. If you asked me a story from any one of my phantoms, I'd have something for you.
Most people always ask about what Peter Karrie was like.
Peter and I had a bit of a love-hate relationship.
Oh dear.
He was absolutely incredible as a phantom, brilliant vocally, and such an incredible sort of domineering presence on stage. But as people, we didn't really see eye to eye, and I think he would probably say the same professionally. Absolutely brilliant. I saw that you'd done an interview with Ethan.
Yes. I see he was in the cast with you as Andre, I think.
He was Andre, yes, and he was cover Phantom, and I went on for his first West End Phantom. He had done it in Toronto before then, but he hadn't done it in the UK. So I did his very first UK performance of Phantom, and he was absolutely brilliant. It was great. Ethan was amazing. He was so involved with the character. I remember on that very, very first performance, he was even off stage. He was Eric. I remember him putting his cape around me before we climbed the Travelator stairs for the Phantom of the Opera duet, after I'd gone through the mirror, taken you from the dressing room. And I remember him putting his cape around me, and no mic. It wasn't on mic, but he was so involved in the character. And he'd say, come into my lair, my darling. And it was there. And I was like, oh my God, he's so into it. It was a whirlwind. I loved working with Ethan. He was great fun, because you were like, oh my God, he's so there. He's so in it.
He still is. When I interview him, he always goes, it's like we are talking to Eric about his life.
Totally involved, absolutely. Things that I remember about Ethan, I remember taking his hand in the dressing room before going downstairs and saying, have a brilliant one tonight. And his hands were freezing. And I said to him, oh my goodness, Ethan, you're so cold. And he went, I've lowered my body temperature in line with that of the Phantoms. And I was like, oh my God, this is fabulous. And so I really remember things like that. Bless him, he's sweet.
He is.
Yes, a good man. Yeah.
And also with Mike Sterling.
Mike, I work with a lot. We do a lot of concert work together. Mike was Raoul when I went back to the show the second time, and he was much like Ethan, he was the understudy Phantom to Glyn. Glyn was my Phantom, and Mike was understudy. But yeah, I'm working with Mike in a few weeks. I think it's the 15th of October. We have a concert together. So yeah, Mike's hilarious. Mike is just like a horse with blinkers on. He does his thing, and everyone just kind of has to swoop around.
How did you approach the role of Christine? What does she feel like to you?
I think I was very lucky because I worked with Harold Prince directly, because it was the 5th year anniversary. And so many people that have played those roles, you are learning sort of secondhand. But because they wanted to revamp the show on the 5th anniversary, I was so lucky to work with Hal and Andrew directly, that I think I had some very different insights into Christine to many of the other ladies who have played her. I was always very touched by her vulnerability, and also the side of her that was very, very strong, and that she'd had to grow up so quickly, having lost her father at such an early age. And if you think about the period of time that Phantom's set in, to have someone with that spirit, to have not crumbled, to have not perhaps ended up in a workhouse, it's amazing to think that Christine kind of managed to push through all of these adversities, if you like. I found there were mirrors certainly when Andrew and Hal were talking to me about Christine, I found that there were mirrors. My father was always there, and actually I was very lucky to have my father until he was 86. But I found that kind of almost that Svengali-esque feeling about my father, that I could never ever live up to what he wanted me to be. And I think that was very useful for me in my portrayal of Christine, because that juxtaposition and that pull of her not understanding whether the voices she heard were her father or whether they were this spirit, and that pull that was always there because she wanted it to be her father, and she wanted the approval of her father all the time. I think I found that very helpful, to be able to return to that in later life, I've realized, working with older actors, different actors, how useful it is to be able to find something in your own life that you can then bring to a character. It also allows an audience to see your natural vulnerability and that you are open to them seeing flaws in your character. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time. And I think for me, Christine is that. She's a flawed individual, and that is where the Phantom saw the cracks, saw the vulnerability, saw his way in. It's the flaws in characters that make them interesting.
You see Christine's relationship with the Phantom himself.
How did I see it?
Yes.
For me, very much that it was the father replacement figure. And then when the sensuality comes in there, I think that's where Christine's turmoil starts, because she doesn't understand where these barriers are. Is this her father? Is this a lover? Where is this going? And that's why, if you like, the Phantom is able to manipulate her, because she's so desperate for this approval of this father figure, whether it's her father or whether it is someone who is replacing that person in her life. That constant pull, that constant fear of, I think, you know, you're a young, beautiful woman, so you must know as well, when women meet men that are powerful and they feel dangerous, there is a draw to them, even though in your head you're going, for goodness sake, you know that this man's a nightmare, we're still drawn towards it. It's why when we watch horror films and people go upstairs into the loft and you go, what? Why are you not just running out the house? Why are you going up? But we do it because we go towards the fear. We go towards the danger.
And usually they even scream, hello.
Oh, I'll just let you know that I'm here. Yeah, absolutely. So
don't scare me, I'm here.
So I think there's a lot of that. It's the fact that she's obviously searching for something, and in this person that she meets, and this spirit, this Phantom, is the thing that she's searching for. But at the same time, there's the juxtaposition, there's the anomaly that he's absolutely terrifying, and she sees the devastation, she sees the people that she is killing, he's injuring, he's maiming in this journey, but she just can't keep away. It's like a car crash. You can't keep your eyes away from it, can you?
That's true. You also created the role of Emma, I think, in Jekyll and Hyde.
Right, yes, I did, in the UK premiere of that as well. She was called Lisa in our version of it, because there have been so many different
absolutely true.
Yeah, connotations. Lucy and Lisa. I was like, why are we doing this? It was, I love that piece, I really do. And I have to say, we talked about Ethan when we first met a few minutes ago. I was in Germany on a concert, and I went to see Ethan in Jackal Hyde in, I want to say I saw him in Essen, but that could be wrong. Anyway, it doesn't matter where I was. In Bremen.
Yes.
Yes. And I fell in love with the show then. I was like, oh, this is great. Absolutely fantastic. And I have to say, I thought Ethan's performance as Jekyll Hyde, the transformation particularly, was absolutely exceptional. I think there are a few actors that could have bettered that. He was incredible. So when they said that they were bringing it to the UK, I was like, yes, I want to go up for this. And I have to say, I wanted to be up for Lucy. I'm not going to lie, but of course everyone thinks of me as this high soprano. Well, they certainly did at that point, I think. So yeah, so I was Emma / Lisa, whatever she's called in all different productions. I loved it. Met some great friends on that. Worked opposite Paul Nicholas, who I had the joy of working with in Singing in the Rain. So as Kathy Selden and Don Lockwood, we'd played opposite each other in that. And then he'd been my boss because he was the producer of Grease in the West End. So I've then gone on to do that, and then working with him again in Jekyll Hyde. It was a brilliant tour. It really was. Lou Dearman as Lucy was exceptional. Did a much better job than I ever would have done. We had the gorgeous Charles Chevelle that we then lost later to mental health, as Jekyll Hyde's best friend, Charles. And it was a brilliant show. I loved every second of it. I really did. Rob Irons was in it as well. Yes, some great friends for life in there.
It's a really, as you said, it's an amazing show. I don't think it's performed that often in the UK anymore. It's a shame.
It is a shame. I think the book is really flawed. I think which is why there's been so many different connotations, different variations of the story, or certainly of the script. The music's fantastic, of course it is. I mean, Frank's just a genius, and the king of power ballads. So he's absolutely fantastic at writing these moving pieces of music. But I think the problem has always been the book, has always been the script. They're just finding a way of making it work as a piece. I think that original concert album, where you've got all of those incredible songs, some of which are in some versions and some are in others, that's when you realise the body of work's incredible. But the problem has always been the book. It's always been the script. It's a shame.
Hear a lot of fans saying that they always go to a Jackal and Hyde show, but never know which songs they will be getting.
What they can see. I think they're always going to hope that this is the moment's going to be in it. But other than that, anything could change, really, couldn't it?
You then started another legendary Anna Lloyd Webber show, Aspects of Love, Rose.
Oh my God, Aspects. I have to say that part, Rose, is an actor's dream. 17-year lifespan within that show. Brilliantly written by Lloyd Webber. Light, high soprano in the first act. And then as she ages, getting into that deep, fruity, rich Broadway belt sound. What an absolute gift of a part for an actress. It really is. We got the chance also to meet the family that the novella is based on. That was odd. Because obviously it's such a weird story. You think this can't be real. But actually, the daughter is a son. So all the sexes of people are actually reversed, but they are all based on real people. Gosh, it's very, very strange to think what a tangled web of incestuousness that show is. Blissful though. Do you know what? I loved every second of that show. It was such a challenge. It was vocally challenging, emotionally challenging, physically challenging. It was brilliant. It was a great year of my life. Loved it.
What do you think of some people saying that these days the show should be changed or couldn't be made anymore because of the storyline?
Really? I've not heard that.
Yes, apparently it's the reason that the new version closed early on West End because people were kind of taken aback by the storyline.
Do you know what? I think when we start talking about changing history, changing classics, it's a little crazy because people lived, as I say, I met the family. That happened. It's an account of a real life situation which could happen time and time again. We know how interwoven families are, and we have extended families now. We have blended families now, don't we? Even more than we would have done in that time. You know, people divorce and remarrying, and they have children, but they're not actually blood relatives. So in theory, something could happen there. I'm sure that kind of scenario could happen time and time again. I find it sad, really, when we are always trying to change something that is a classic. I don't think it should be changed, and if people don't want to see it, they don't want to see it. But I wouldn't change it. I would say, okay, that's what it was. If it's not right for this particular audience at the moment, we'll pop it on a shelf and we'll bring it out in 20 years when they are ready for it. But don't change it. Just don't kowtow, is what I would say.
Yeah, because I absolutely love the music, and I just want more people to hear it, because
Yeah.
it's just a shame, because Anything But Lonely is such a great song for to sing.
It's a scene, isn't it?
Yes.
Scene, that song, it really is. I mean, it transports the audience through that woman's entire adult life of the loss that she's had time and time and time again, and her fear of being alone because she doesn't like herself. It's so sad. She doesn't want to be alone, because if she's alone, she has to face up to who she is, and she doesn't like herself. It's devastating. And to have that at the nth moment of a show where you think, well, there's nowhere left in this story to help her. She's alone. That's it. You know, and this whole fight of her life to not be alone, and she's just pushed everyone away. It's I loved singing that song, even on nights when I was tired and I thought, I'm never going to get that top E out. I loved every second of it.
I think it's that song and the show is just absolutely beautiful. So
Devastatingly beautiful.
what are some of your other favorite shows and roles to perform besides the ones we've mentioned?
Well, definitely Sandy in Grease. I loved every second of that. It was one of those jobs where I left because I got another show, not because I wanted to leave the show. I left to do Damn Yankees, which unfortunately, before we even hit rehearsals, got cancelled. Oh, what a great job. What a great bunch of people I don't know if you ever saw the advertising for it then, back in 1990, gosh, when did I do it? 94, was it? And the advertising was the greatest party in town, and it really was. Even if you went in a bad mood, if you weren't feeling very well, if you were tired, if something bad had happened in the day, you couldn't help but come out with a smile on your face, because it was just like a giant party at work. It was brilliant. And it's a great show. And again, you know, they've changed it so much in this most recent production. I just think, why? You know, yes, it's dated, but that's what makes it joyous. It's a celebration of that time in the 50s, isn't it? That innocence that we had in the 50s. But so why change it? But yeah, I absolutely loved that. I loved playing Alice in Wonderland. Brilliant part. I mean, again, for a young girl to have those adventures, obviously, you know, they're all out of Lewis Carroll's addled drug-induced mind, but just a brilliant part to play because of the incredible characters that she meets and interacts with, and adventures that she gets embroiled in. Smaller things that I've done that you know, people might not have known about. Once Upon a Mattress I did in Belfast for
I recently saw the TV version of that one.
Yeah, it's brilliant. What a great show. Not done that often, you know, based on Princess and the Pea, physical theatre. So I've been so lucky. I've had so many incredible roles. You really ought to ask me about the ones that I didn't like.
Which ones were those?
Dirty Dancing. That was the worst year of my life.
Oh dear.
I really thought, what am I doing? Why am I here? I don't really understand why I'm in this show. Yeah. I know people enjoy the show for you know, the dancing's incredible, the performances are amazing, but I just did not enjoy my time in that at all. It's a year I will never get back, Dannii.
Was there anything you did like there?
The people and
Oh,
watching the dancing, but I found it very frustrating that the audience knew every word because they'd seen the movie, and they would be saying the lines before it happened out loud. And then there were a couple of scenes that didn't make it into the movie that were in the show that had gone in edit from the original movie script, and you could hear them going, "Oh, I don't know, what is that? I don't know these words. Why are they saying that?" And this whole dialogue with the audience would be going on while you were trying to perform. It was the weirdest job ever.
maybe you should have done a sing-along version instead.
Yeah, maybe.
Having divided your career as an actor on both stage and screen, how do both disciplines differ for you?
That's a really interesting question, actually, because I don't think the disciplines differ. I think what you have to do to keep each of those mediums fresh is different. So in the theatre, I think it's easier to stay fresh and stay focused on a day-to-day basis because it's ever changing, i.e. the audience are different every day. So whilst you would think you're in the same theatre, you're saying the same lines, you're wearing the same costumes, the reaction is different every night from an audience, and an audience is a pack animal. So if particularly that night people are more in tune with the humour, it's incredible how infectious that is. And so it will be the comedy of a show that comes out more. And then the next night, they're there for the pathos. And you're like, gosh, how is it that everyone in this building tonight is feeling something together? So it's a real pack animal being in the theatre. Television is much more, I think, is much more difficult because if it's acting for the screen, you have to be able to turn the emotion on. You very rarely do you get to film scenes in chronological succession. So, for example, they'll do all the scenes that are in the living room together. They'll do all the scenes that are in the bedroom, all the scenes that are in the school. So you don't have the journey emotionally happening naturally. You have to be able to turn it on. So if you need to cry, you need to find that from somewhere, and it's not to do with what's happened before because it's completely out of order. For presenting, it's very different. And again, it comes back to concert work. So I think concert work and presenting for me, and I'm sure they're different for lots of people, but for me, they're very similar in that it's about allowing yourself to be real, about knowing that you haven't got to be perfect all the time. It doesn't matter if you stumble over the odd word. It doesn't matter if you make an odd lyric choice, one that wasn't written, or say a few too many times on live telly. It just shows that you're human, and that that's allowed, because we're all human. And if we go down the road of AI, then everything will always be perfect, which is a very terrifying prospect, I think, because life isn't perfect. So broadcasting, whether it be on screen, whether it be on a concert platform, it can't be, and it doesn't need to be perfect, because we're all human, and we're all doing it. We're all feeling it together.
It's one thing I always find hard, because I'm just starting. I always think of, oh my God, I'm doing this wrong, and people are thinking this when I'm talking to them.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's about just engaging with people, isn't it? And
Yes.
the fact I can see you, I can see your eyes, I can see how you're reacting to me. That's what makes it real, and that's what makes it lovely and watchable and listenable. In my view, I'm sure lots of us have different opinions, but that's what I think makes it work, is when it's true and it's natural and it's real.
What are some of your best theatre memories?
Of watching or being in?
And both.
Watching, instantly this comes to mind, is going to see Chicago on Broadway, and sort of crowd of male dancers and BB Newirth just peeling her way out through the center. And I literally was transported. I had never seen anything like it. So simple, so simple. No flashy sets, just brilliant choreography, brilliant performances, raw, gritty. For me, she blew my mind. She took my breath away, and I never witnessed anything like that in theatre. All in black, a band behind her, and yet I was transported. I was in that prison. I really, really loved that, and that will always, it will stay with me forever. On stage, I think my biggest memory will always be the moment that I stepped out on stage the first time playing Annie, standing in the wings, terrified, absolutely terrified, having enjoyed the entire rehearsal period and being really excited and ready to get on stage, but then standing in the wings and thinking, I can't do it. And my chaperone literally pushing me on stage when it was my cue. And just the moment where I turned, because Annie runs behind the beds and stands in between all of the beds and shouts, "Pipe down, Alia!" That's her first line, with all the kids screaming. But that moment, you're standing looking out front at the audience in this huge theatre, the Victoria Palace, and seeing all of those faces and just going, wow, they've come to watch me. And then just going, yeah, this is great. So that's my memory, and it's my first proper job as well, and I just loved it. I knew it was for me from that moment on.
Did you ever experience anything, a funny thing that went wrong on stage?
Oh yeah, loads of things, and lots of things went wrong in Phantom, actually. I'm sure now with the updated set and everything, they don't have those issues, but when Simon Burke was playing Raoul, and I think it was Dave Willits as Phantom, might have been Peter Karrie, but I think it was Dave Willits, and the trapdoor collapsed underneath us in the rooftop scene. And I was wearing the Countess dress, which I'm sure you know is huge.
Yes.
And it's so heavy because it's literally jewel encrusted. And Simon was a proper gym buddy. He had like muscles like I'd never seen. I mean, they were like popping out. And I think if I hadn't been working with him, I would have been seriously injured, because he caught me under my arm with his hand as the trapdoor went. Just quick reactions, caught me with under my arm with his hand and held that entire weight, my weight, that gown, while people just ran underneath and caught me. So I think that there's so many things that theatre's really dangerous. You know, what with fireballs going off in the mausoleum and things getting stuck, costumes getting caught in things. I mean, I broke my toe in Aspects of, broke 3 toes actually in Aspects of Love. Our version of Aspects had 6, maybe 5 revolves, and the morning, I was called the morning after the night before, so the morning after Alex and Rose arrive in Poe at George's mansion, there's the play fighting scene, and I was barefoot and I ran across stage and I got my feet caught in your little face, caught in the revolve, and I broke 3 toes. But again, you just, that adrenaline just carries you through. You don't even notice, you just get on with it. So there's lots of memories of things going wrong. Yeah.
Anything you would like to add that hasn't been mentioned?
No, I think it's been great. You've asked me lots of lovely questions. They're really good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this interview. It was wonderful speaking to you. So you have such fabulous memories.
Oh, thank you, Anna. It's been my pleasure. So thank you so much for asking me.
Okay.
Right. Well, all the best.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.